What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the YouTube channel. I hope you guys are all having a great day. I've got my coffee. I'm a little sick, as you guys can probably hear in my voice, but in today's video I want to talk about my top 5 things that I recommend you guys do to your Focus RS or Focus ST. It kind of applies to both. These are going to be my top 5 recommendations for your Focus ST, Fiesta ST, or Focus RS. So let's talk about my top 5 mods that I think you should do to your Focus RS. Now, my number 1 recommendation for the Focus RS, which I haven't done to this one yet, but is the next thing I'm going to do, is an E30 tune. Now, most guys are looking at, roughly 50 to 60 horsepower and anywhere from 50 to 80 foot-pounds of torque. Now, that is an insane amount of power. Now, E85 has a higher octane rating than, say, 91 or 93, depending on where you live. But with E85, you can run more boost and more timing to produce more power. So that's kind of the reason why a lot of guys go for E85 or the E30 tune on the Focus ST, Fiesta STs, and Focus RS. I think it's gonna be the cheapest way to get power out of the EcoBoost motors, whether it's your 2.3 or 2 liter or the 1.6 that comes in the Fiesta ST. So you can usually get an E-tune from a couple of respectable guys. I'm gonna go up to somebody in Denver and probably get dyno tuned. That way it's a little bit better of a video for you guys. But for the money, I don't think you can get much more power. Now, most guys will not do an E30 tune unless you do an upgraded intercooler. And now that brings me to my second most important mod for the Focus RS, which is going to be an upgraded intercooler. Now, the biggest benefit of E30 is that you can run more spark. And now if you pair that with an upgraded intercooler, you reduce the charge air temps, which will increase power. So as you guys know, the denser, the colder the air, the more power you're going to be able to make. So if you pair an upgraded intercooler, which I have, I actually put the Mishimoto intercooler, hot pipe, and cold pipe on my Focus RS. It's gonna be an absolute monster. Now, this intercooler, the stock Focus RS intercooler isn't bad, but it definitely could be better. Now, if you have a Focus ST or a Fiesta ST, that is the number 1 modification I would go with before anything else, an upgraded intercooler. So in my case, at least on the Focus RS, all the tuners that I've talked to say the number 1 modification that you need to max out the stock turbo is just an upgraded intercooler. So if you pair an intercooler with an E30 tune, you're really gonna almost maximize what the stock turbo can do on any of the EcoBoost platforms. So whether that be the Fiesta ST, Focus ST, or the Focus RS. I cannot wait to do an E85 tune on the Focus RS or E30 because it's gonna rip. The tuner I've been talking to is actually saying most guys usually get about 350 wheel and then close to 400 foot-pounds of torque, which is insane. Especially figuring that this is a stock turbo car and I haven't done anything else other than a Cobb drop-in air filter. If you guys are excited to see me tune the Focus RS on E30, let me know. Now, to go along with the E30 tune and the front mount intercooler, you can do 1-step colder plugs. Usually they say you go 1 step colder per 100 horsepower more you're going to make. A lot of guys typically run the 1-step colder plugs, and I've had a recommendation to get those for the Focus RS, but honestly, I need to do more research before I decide to do that, because I think I'll probably end up going with them because it's like a $40 thing, and it'll just make me sleep better at night knowing that hopefully the engine will be running cooler, colder, and producing more power. So those all kind of go similar. Those are my 1 and 2 recommendations. So intercooler, 1-step colder plugs, and then an E30 tune. Honestly, I think with those 3, about $1,000 all in, you're gonna maximize basically all the stock turbo can handle. Now, to go along with the intercooler, the E30 tune, and the 1-step colder plugs, in order to get a tune, you'll have to get the Accessport. Now, I have the Accessport V3, beautiful, beautiful piece of equipment, and you can't really get tuned without it. If you can, you guys will probably let me know that you can get tuned with something else, but I recommend it. It's $650. For the price, you really can't beat it. You can flash the stage 1 Cobb tune to these with just a drop-in air filter, at least on the Focus RS. So that's what I did. I'm running stage 2 now that I have the intercooler, but I don't want to keep it on long because a lot of you guys have let me know, hey, if you don't get it tuned soon, you're probably gonna blow your motor with the Cobb stage 2. So that is why here in the next week or so, I will get a custom E30 tune. I might put another part on here before I get the tune. You guys will have to stay tuned and see if I actually end up getting that. The Cobb Accessport V3 is such an awesome upgrade. It's honestly a lot of fun to be able to look over too and see your boost or coolant temp or oil temperature, whatever you want to look at. It just makes it feel like a race car, and who doesn't want to feel like they're in a race car when they're in their, you know, Focus RS or Focus ST. And a lot of guys will argue the best mod for your Focus RS is going to be the Accessport. And while I definitely agree with that, it's probably going to be the base of any foundation of a good build, because like I said, you can't tune your car without an Accessport. I would recommend getting an Accessport first, and then like I did, I would get the intercooler second, because once you have the Accessport and the intercooler, then you can get tuned. So depending on what intercooler you go with, you're probably gonna spend about $1,000 on the two of them. But I mean, if you figure $1,000 for what, maybe 50 to 60 horsepower, and then say another 50 to 70 foot-pounds of torque, in my opinion, that is money very well spent. And I'm very excited to get the Focus RS tuned, because the intercooler that I put on, honestly, with the Stage 2, it just feels very laggy and delayed. Usually the Focus RS, kind of the main thing about these cars is how torquey they are. And with the new intercooler, it just doesn't, it feels like, so I'm gonna give you guys a little example. So I boost, and then it feels like it kicks in. So it feels like it has two different stages to boost, if that makes sense. I don't know if any of you guys have experienced that with your Focus RS before, but at least with the Stage 2 Cobb tune on it, it just feels a little more delayed than I would like it. So I can't wait to get a custom tune and see if they kind of are able to tune that out. Now, the fourth mod I'm gonna recommend is honestly a pretty cheap mod for the Focus RS. Now, some of you might not want to do anything to the motor, and I totally understand that, because you do get a nice warranty with the Focus RS. But if you are wanting to do modifications to it to make it sound a little bit better, I'm not a huge fan of what the Focus RS sounds like with an exhaust. I think it sounds a little raspy and just too loud. So I was doing some research, and I figured out that the Focus RS sounds absolutely perfect with a catless downpipe. One, the sound is awesome. It sounds just like it should. It's not too much, it's not too over the top, but it's definitely louder than it is stock, and you should get a little bit of horsepower out of it. So that might be what I'm considering for mine. You guys will have to stay tuned to the channel, but I definitely recommend for your Focus RS looking into a catless downpipe, because one, the sound is going to be a lot better than it is stock, but it's not going to be too loud to the point where it's just annoying, droney on the highway and stuff like that. Now, my fifth mod is very basic, very boring, and I think it's super important that every car guy does this, is get your windows tinted. I'll show you a picture of this before window tint and then after window tint, and it completely changes the whole look of the car. Before, it was totally fishbowl, everybody could see in, everybody could look at me and see how ugly I am. But now, nobody can see it. I did 15% all the way around, and then I forget what I did up front, but it's just enough to where nobody can really see in, but it doesn't affect my visibility at night. So I can still see out of this car just fine, and it looks so menacing. The red on black looks really good, especially since the roof is blacked out and the mirrors are blacked out. The tint goes perfect. I'm not gonna include this in my top 5, obviously, because I've already given you guys my top 5 recommendations, but I did change the shift knob from the stock RS shift knob to a Cobb knob, and it's black, and I honestly love the way it feels. During the winter time, it's a little cold. During the summertime, it's a little hot, but just the throw of it feels so much better. So that's another cheap mod you can do to your Focus RS if you want to just do something, but you don't want to really mess up the motor or do anything to affect your warranty. The Cobb knob's $60. Great purchase. I love it. So if you guys have been looking at shift knobs and you don't know what to get, I highly recommend the Cobb shift knob. I think putting this in is my 6th recommendation for the Focus RS, but as many of you guys know, if you own the Focus RS, the brake dust on the rims is terrible. I can try and clean them to the best of my ability, but then there's still brake dust on them, and then I drive it for another 5 miles, and the brake dust is horrendous again. So if you can get your rims ceramic coated, it sounds crazy. I know, ceramic coating rims, why would you do that? I don't know if anybody's done that before, but if I bought this car again brand new, and I still might consider it, get them ceramic coated so you can just spray that brake dust right off. The brake dust is so thick that it creates almost a permanent layer on the rims, and it's awful. It makes the rims not look as good. And your brake calipers, it changes from blue to like a nasty black and blue. I know you guys think the red on the blue looks terrible, but I still really love it. Kind of a weird recommendation to get your wheels ceramic coated. I don't know how much that would cost. I don't know if it would be worth it, but the brake dust sucks. And that's probably one of my biggest complaints when washing this car. Everything looks so good, and then the brake dust just ruins it. So if you guys want, get your rims ceramic coated, and you'll thank me later. Now, to wrap this all up, I'll give you guys a brief rundown of my top 5 just in case you missed it or it was confusing, because I know sometimes these videos can get a little jumbled up, especially when I'm sick and I'm not making much sense. So number 1, I would get an Accessport, because you can't do anything fun or you can't tune it or anything like that without it. So get an Accessport. Then I recommend getting a front mount intercooler, because the one from factory, especially on the Fiesta STs and Focus STs, just isn't sufficient. Motors are famous for heat soaking, so anytime you get in temperatures where you're consistently pushing the car, they heat soak. So definitely upgrade your intercooler on the Focus RS. That's kind of the number 1 recommendation. But I would recommend an Accessport before you have that, just so you can kind of combine the two and put either a custom tune on it or a stage 1 tune from Cobb. Now, my 3rd recommendation is getting a custom tune. So either running E85, E30, whatever you want. Now with E85, if you want to run that full, you definitely need more upgrades than just the intercooler. So I typically, and most tuners, recommend an E30 tune. My 4th recommendation is going to be a catless downpipe, just to make it sound a little bit better, and you'll get a little bit of performance. Probably only, 3 to 5 horsepower, but you are freeing up a little bit more airflow. So more airflow, more power, nothing wrong with that. And now my 5th recommendation for the Focus RS is window tint. Pretty basic, but it makes your car look so much better. So like I said, if you guys enjoyed this video, smash that like button. Let me know what you want to see me do to the Focus RS. Let me know your top 5 mods for the Focus RS, and I will see you guys next video.